All right. So I'm going to go to the negative second argument. Saying the guns are easier to get. That's not our argument. We're not trying to argue that guns are easier to get, and people who want concealed carry permits want to buy a gun. We're arguing that they already have a gun. Concealed carry permit, why would someone go out and buy a gun to get a concealed carry permit? These people already have guns. And I'd like to read that the current gun control laws provide a significant barrier for containing concealed carry permits. The Associated Press in San Francisco, an American multinational news agency, they say that the 9th U.S. District Appeals ruled February 13th that law-abiding residents need only show a desire for self-defense. This has since been overturned. Since then, the authorities have charges of issuing permits say they have received numerous applications and fielded even more phone calls seeking permission to carry a concealed carry permit weapon. Alameda County Sheriff Greg Aham, head of California State Sheriff's Association, says that the application request rose statewide in the days after the ruling. This is a significant issue in the status quo. If you have a gun, you can go buy one. That's not a problem. The problem is you can't get a concealed carry permit in the state of California. On top of that, the sheriffs do not have a statewide criteria for issuing concealed carry permits. It's up to their interpretation of good cause, which I previously defined. Bring to the negative's third argument that concealed carry permits will decreasing crime is not an issue, and more guns in the status quo will harm us. I asked in cross-examination where did the negative get this information from. He provided a reporter who didn't provide any statistical analysis, didn't cite any of their sources in the neighborhoods in the community that the status quo, or that they argued for the status quo that would increase crime. I'm saying that's irrelevant, that source is irrelevant, that argument doesn't matter, because that is the unproven sourced author who's just reporting on an assumption. I'm finished.
Excellent. First negative rebuttal.
The affirmative is trying to say that I was saying that having CCW permits would increase the crime rate, but that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that it would increase insecurity in the communities. CCW permits are possibly even too easy to get right now. You know, this is a lethal weapon that can kill people, can end people's lives, and having strict restrictions on getting one is completely necessary for anywhere you're at. I don't think that good cause is at all hindering people's ability. Well, it's not hindering people's ability to get a gun, because if the sheriff doesn't think that you need a gun, you don't need a gun. You know, it's based off his judgment, you will get a gun or not. I think that's it.
Okay. The second affirmative rebuttal.
One, it's our constitutional right to bear arms. Bear means to have on you as. So he was stating that the sheriffs, there is no uniform permit holding throughout California. That's up to each sheriff to determine each person's case. California is a very diverse place geographically and with its people. Even in each county, there could be numerous diversity, and up for one person to determine for the rest of the community, which has already been proven to be illegal against the Constitution by Alan Gura. Shouldn't be up to just one person. Also, when you're a permit holder, you hold yourself and you're held to a higher standard. That's why these people have committed less crimes than even police officers, because they know they're under the radar for having a concealed carry permit. And through most of the crimes and that have been committed hasn't been with the concealed carry permit holder or even his weapon. It would have been through another off the book means from another gun owner, as many people can own guns. But as I said, the permit holders would be more under scrutiny, and those are the ones who are more or love guns and who wouldn't use them illegally or sell them illegally. The reason why we have the Second Amendment is to keep the freedoms from the government in the first place. The right to bear arms is for a militia, just in case the government decides they want to take more of our freedoms and we decide we don't want them to.
Excellent. So Cicero says there are 4 fundamental questions that you're going to ask yourself at the end of this debate when you go home to write your ballot and vote for the affirmative or negative team. The first question is there a significant problem in the status quo? That's the second argument in the 1AC about good cause and about how the sheriff standard is bad because it can't account for the diversity. That's the 2AR's argument. Our argument is, number one, there is not a single empirical example in California where anybody denied a concealed weapons permit has been hurt, harmed, or otherwise. There is no proof that the sheriff's standard has been poor. They assert that the sheriff's standard might be poor, that the sheriff's standard might not be able to handle diversity, but there is no proof that there is anyone actually being harmed in the status quo, which means the affirmative has not met their first burden. They have not proven that there is a fundamental problem. At best, they could argue that it's violating the Constitution, but remember our first argument is that the constitutional right to Second Amendment is not absolute. Kyle admits in cross-examination that there can be reasonable regulations on the Second Amendment, and our argument is that having a shall carry state is a reasonable restriction. We do want our sheriffs to interview people and make sure that they have a good reason for that gun, which means that you know at the end of this debate that there is no significant justification for why we would change the status quo. The second question is whether or not we need to force the status quo, whether or not the problem is inherent. And we've already conceded that. We are right. The status quo is not going to move towards the affirmative, and we think that's a good idea. So the affirmative is winning inherency, but that's not enough for them to win the debate because they also have to prove that their change will make things better. They argue that it will make things better because people won't commit more crime, but they're missing our argument. Extend our argument that there'll be an increase in accidents. Extend our argument that there'll be an increase in stolen guns. Extend our argument that there will be more guns on the black market for criminals to get access to. This means that you, by voting for the affirmative, are actually going to make things not better, but worse. And that's the fourth question that Cicero says we have to ask, which is what are the potential disadvantages to change in the status quo? We believe as the negative that the status quo right now is being just fine. California gun laws are working the way they're supposed to work. There is no justification by the affirmative to force us to change those laws to make things better. They have not proven significance, they have not proven solvency, and there is in fact risk of a disadvantage that we could actually make things worse. Please vote negative. Give them all a round of applause.